So this is Baruch here at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel, and it's time to slide another sefer into the mix. Once again, I want to suggest to everyone buy these books. They're not particularly expensive, but they're great for review. And at the same time, because every year Rosh Hashanah is going to come up, and by the time you get past Sukkot, you won't remember what you learned in Tivah Kavanos in regard to Rosh Hashanah. So if you have the book, they get you right back into it again because the writing of the Rav itself is very simple. It's a question of the concepts. Sometimes the concepts, how they map together and how the river flows, so to speak, can be complicated. So Tiv helps us work it out. So here we come over here now. We're talking about Kriya Shema, right? That's a subject that we're working on right now. And now we've come to the concept of the Kriya Shema Olamita. Now, what we understand is according to the kinds of mochin the katnas, it's really important. It just doesn't make sense in the world of Asiya where we live. Is that something small is really the progenitor of something big. If you don't start with mochin the katnas, what are mochin the katnas? Well, these are mochin the dinim. Because we know that when we wake up in the morning, we have to face the day. We have all kinds of things that we have to go through. These are the mochin of katnas. So mochin of katnas are not able to perceive God's hand in the world, and therefore they frighten us. There's all different kinds of things that are associated with these dinim. We offer those dinim back to the source, which is the Ein Sof Baruch, which is Hashem Yisbarach. And then as a result of that, as those are offered, answers come back. What's the answer? Expanded consciousness of an awareness of who we are and where we are, like that. So let's go over here and let's see what the words of the actual Ari HaKodesh are as stated to Rabbi Chaim Vital. There's a Kriya Shema Shalamit. Now, when you come to this one that takes place right before you go to bed, we've already been through three Kriya Shemas, or that's what, three Kriya Shemas? Yes, three Kriya Shemas. This is the fourth. We have to do everything new here. Ve'ena maspik the Kriya Shema to the Filas Arvis, that the Kriya Shema you did at Arvis, which brought in Mocha the Godless. He says that's not going to help you now when you come to Kriya Shema Lalamita. Kamo Shehespik, a Kriya Shema the Chakras, for example, that we have this concept of the Kriya Shema of Chakras, which takes place in the daytime. The daytime is the concept of Chesed, it's light, it's everything beautiful and everything sweet. But as the day grows on, it's still there, but it becomes weakened and more weakened, but it's still there. But this concept does not work for nighttime. You might have thought that the Mochen that came of godless that came in as a result of saying the Marav prayer, that this would be sufficient to be able to help you out with Kriya Shema Lamita, but it's not. So he says Shema, the chakras el zivug tefilas of mincha, which refers to the zivug that takes place at mincha, that is related to the zivug that takes place in the chakras, and you have some leftover. Let's look at now at the Tivah Kavanos here on number Memches, and let's see what he says. He says Belila at the nighttime. He says Nistalkim Mochin the Gamri. Mochin leaves their anpin completely. Ve'ein shum mochin bazah, and there are no mochin left in their anpin. So the lechein, excuse me. Therefore, tzrichen the crows achar defilas arvis. So therefore, when Kriya Shema is over at arvis, it's hard to read Od Pam Kriya Shema Shalamita. You have to do it a second time. That time for the Kriya Shema Alamita. Why? L'tzorach hazivuk shel zer anpin v'nuk, for the purpose of the yichud that takes place between Zachar and Nuk. And the Asa b'chatzas alayla, because there's going to be something going on here. There's going to be another yichud. This is a yichud. They're going to probably say that it's from Yaakov and Leah, but let's see what he's going to say, because there's another yichud that takes place at midnight. And so left over from Kriya Shema of Arvis is not going to help you make a yichud after midnight. So it doesn't work. What you did at Marav is not going to help you for itself. His big Kriya Shema the chakras, and so like comparing again the chakras, which is sufficient in order to make a yichud between Zachar V'Nuk and the Azar B'Devidas of Mincha. So the time who came in Shehem Hazman to the Tefillah Shachris, and the reason he's saying it again, that the reason why is in the Tefillah of Shachris, Vehein Hazman to the Tefillah Mencha, those two different times, Shneihem Heim Bayom, they're both in the daytime. Daytime's Lashon is the sun. The sun shines beautiful light on everything. So he said, Ubiyom Hazeh, Ubiyom Huzaman Shal Rachamim, and this is the time of mercy. So therefore the mochin don't completely and totally leave Zeranpin at that time. So therefore you don't have to say a Kriya Shema to produce mochin to come into Zeran, mochin of godless to come into Zeranpin at this time. Because there's other mochin, leftover mochin. Now he says, but the Tefillah Zarvis, when you come to nighttime, who's the man of Lila? This is the time of night. Of a Lila, mistalkim a mochin the gamre. At nighttime, the mochin leave completely. Vein shum mochin, so there are no mochin left. L'chein tzrichim od pam lomar kriya shemash alamitas. What happens at nighttime is that after Marav, they completely and totally leave this empty. Kedei lahamshich l'zam mochin chadashim. And the whole point of this is to bring it to Zer Anpin, new mochin. He said, Mochim renewed Mochim. The Tzorach HaZivuk D'Zav Anuk, and so there should be those Mochim available to make a yichud possibly between Zocher V'Nuk and the Asib B'Chatzos Alayla, which takes place at nighttime, at midnight. Now let me see where I'm at right now. We're going to go over here to, well, I guess, let's see where we go. First, we're going to read this blurb from the Rav. The Rav said, the reason why, Kashuhu Adayim Yom, when it's still daytime, Ein HaMochim Mamstalchim Nagamri, the Mochim don't completely and totally leave. You don't need to bring in no Mochim to Gadlus, because they're already there. Masha Ein Kain Kashukavarna Asalayla, which is not the case when night forms. Now you're on the other side of the world, so to speak. Sha'az mistalkin the mochin leave completely. But the chain tzorach kriya shema b'chadash, so therefore you need a new kriya shema. The tzorach hazivuk sheyiha acher kach b'chatzas alayla, for that yichud that takes place after that at midnight. So he said v'chatam she'ane makdim in the crows oza kriya shema b'esa shkiva. So the reason why we say this at the time we go to sleep is boy b'makoma. This is going to be explained later on the command as we go forward. So he said, let's look at number Mem Tes in the Tivuk Avanos. And it's right here. It says, V'zecha v'lashon the Rav v'kamon. This is the language of the Rav later on. So according to this, it was really fit. So this is an important point. Everybody is not able to say Kriya Shema exactly at midnight. Now, Rabbi Nachman says the time of midnight because he really likes this idea. Rabbi Nachman, it really recommends it very strongly, is actually 2 hours before and 2 hours after the actual, as it changes from day to day, after midnight. So he incorporates a lot. This is the feeling of Rabbeinu Kodesh, Rabbi Nachman. So over here, that he says like this. So he says mitama now. So we say this not at the moment that is chatzos, but we say it before we go to sleep. Because what happens then after, when you actually get to the real moment of the midnight, through our neshamos, there's a yichud that takes place up above. Now, what does he mean? I'm thinking he means that just like we learned over there in Rosh Hashanah, this is that when our neshamas go up and they leave our body and we're sleeping. So at that point, this is Mayim Nukvin, and it's arousing all kinds of elements up above. But Moshe Be'arna Be'ezes Hashem, we're going to get to that. So we say the Kriya Shema while we're still standing in this world. And before that, we actually deposit our neshamas up above, which I said is I'm thinking myself that this is my nukvin, The saying who yoel kriya shema zu. So the concept here is this kriya shema should help the zivug shebechatzos aladik and niska, the zivug that takes place at midnight. Now let's come over here to number nun. We'll keep moving along. Let me see. Let me get this in a nice way. Okay, so number nun. That who Lila. So now we're talking about night, no doubt about it. Lila mamish. Yosef b'bishas tevilas arvis, and it's more deep night than what you had at the time of saying the Marav. So therefore, this yichud is going to be in a darker place. So there's going to be more inferior. It's going to be a less quality yichud. It's not in the high level. Remember the highest level that takes place at Shachris, and this is a wrapping of the Shefa, the Ein Sof Baruch Hu, in the garment of the Chitzonius of Atik Yamin, which is inside of the Penimius of Eric Anpin, and Eric Anpin, the Chitzonius of Eric Anpin, is inside of the Penimius of Abba V'Ima Elohim, or as we go like that, they just say Abba V'Ima. So he said, so therefore it's inferior, it's not the same, because it's only coming from the Chitzonius of Abba B'Ima. So he said, it's not considered to be such a quality yichud. It's a very low level of yichud. It's a low light yichud. Now, I'm trying to understand this. It's not that easy for me to understand, but I put an understanding on it. And just working it out from listening to the language of the Rav, that the clothing of the tipa of the Ein Sof in the light of Atik Yomim, the exterior of Atik Yomim, his Kitzonis of the Atik Yomim, is a tremendously transparent light. In other words, the light of the Ein Sof is diluted in the least amount of ways. So therefore, at this time in Shachris, you're able to pick up on the greatest amount of Shefa, pure quality Shefa of love and eternity from the Ein Sof Baruch. And as the day progresses, and in different places where we say the Kriya Shema, it comes from different places. The clothing is different. And when it comes to the one by Kriya Shema L'Lamita, this is the lowest level, which means that the clothing is very dense. It's thick. This is Flashman saying this, but I'm really trying to draw it out from what I hear. And as a result of that, the amount of light that's actually coming in at this Kriya Shema is greatly diminished from what happens at chakras. So let's just look at a little bit. It's not such a great, it's a great light. So therefore, it only comes from the most physical place, that is the lavush of the tipo, is only coming from the most physical place, which is the kitzonis of Abba V'Ima. Now we'll read this little bit right here where it says like this. It says, "B'man shekorim kriya shemash alamita." That time, who's the man Lila Mamish? It's deep night. Yosef Mishas Tefilas Amarav, because Marav comes right after Shachris. Excuse me, right after dark. That's what I'm saying. But Kevin Shazman Tefilas Arvis, so since the time of Arvis, who has chalos alilas at the beginning of the night, Moshe Kasev around the Kaman. Amnan, but Tefilas Arvis Adayim who has chalos alilas. So this is still the beginning of the night. So there's a little light still hanging around. So there his the fortification of the Chitzonium is not so great. The fish of Sha'ad Oz or Yom, because right up until the time of Marav it was daytime. And then you see that in daytime you have Chesed and Rachamim, which is really the most important element of the day. Adkan. So he said, so it comes out like this. At the time that you say the tefillah of Arvis, Adayim nishar od rosham shal hayom, so that there's going to be more of an impression of the daytime. Masha ein ke bizman shal kriya shema, which is not the same thing as the time of kriya shema shal lamita, who yosim ma'uchar. It's much later. It's much more deep into darkness. But the Zaman Lila, so therefore it's considered at the time of night, Mamish, After the Hamshech Kriya Shemash Alameda, so therefore, since it's really deep dark, that in darkness is the concept of density, of thickness, of the inability to be able to see light, right? There's no light there, not in real darkness. So in real darkness is what you're talking about is the darkest time of the day, very difficult. The wrapping of the light of the Ein Sof is going to be for the lowest possible place, the most dense place. Imagine. These are the most inferior mochim. It doesn't mean the mochim are the same mochim, but it means the levush of the mochim sheyesh b'ma'alo shehem b'chitzonis abba v'ima levav. Lo melamala mechem, and not from up above them. Masha ein came b'kriya shema shal tefillas arvis, which is not the case of the kriya shema of arvis. Shema mshich and the mochim the zer anpin. There you have mochim coming to zer anpin. Mebedrega Yosef Gavoa from a level that's much higher. Shahu Minakitzonius Eric Anpin, and that is the language that we have been using and been saying, and that's the shir here, Baruch Fleischman, on the Tikkun Elevator Kollel Network, which is supposed to be called the American Kabbalah Network. So we're working on that. This is Baruch Fleischman.